Welcome to Intuitive Writer. I'm your host, Camille Chan. I'm a writer, a medium, and a story channeler. I have 23 published books to my name and counting. I have been writing novels for over 30 years, and for just as long, I have been channeling stories. I have spent my life in dedication to my craft, and what I've learned is that, contrary to popular belief, stories do not come from within. Stories come from without. Stories exist in the universe as energy, and they are waiting to work with writers just like you and me to be channeled on to the written page. I believe that so many writers out there are already channeling stories, but they're doing it from an unconscious space. I started the Intuitive Writer podcast and YouTube channel to help writers just like you shift from a space of unconscious creativity to a space of conscious creativity. Be sure to tune in every week for teachings that will help you incorporate intuitive writing into your everyday writing practice. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so grateful to be part of this creative journey with you, and I look forward to sharing with you every week. Thanks for tuning in. Hey guys, welcome back to the Intuitive Writer podcast and YouTube channel. I'm so glad to be back after taking a week off. I had the best week hanging out with my characters and finishing my book. It was so much fun. I took a couple days off from work and was just able to totally immerse myself in their energy, and it's my happy place, my grounded place. I was working with 5 different energies in this book, 5 different characters, and yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, it was super cool. And I'd sit down to write and I'd be like, okay guys, Anton, Amanda, Stevenson, Nana, Luca, I'd call their names and I'd say, come on guys, let's get to work. And they'd come. They'd show up, and I'd get all like tingly, and and they're moving around. You could feel them moving around. So yeah, it was just a really great week, and it was nice just to have that to focus on. But I'm back. My book is with my copy editor. It's going to be out in April, and so I have a little bit of time to really focus on Intuitive Writer and some other things. So this week we are going to talk about writer's block, and I know there is a ton of stuff on the internet and books and everywhere else about writer's block, but I'm going to be talking about it in a slightly different perspective. I'm going to take it from an energetic perspective. So we're going to talk about what writer's block is from an energetic perspective and what you can do about it. And I have 2 very simple steps to tackle writer's block. So let's dive in. Let's start with the first part of today's topic. What is writer's block from an energetic perspective? And what it really is a lack of surrender on the writer's part to the energies that are stepping forward to work with you. It's a misalignment with the energies that you're co-creating with. And it usually looks something like this. There's a big old bus, and all the different energies that are a part of your book and you're all loaded onto the bus, but the writer shows up and says, I'm the boss, I'm driving, the rest of you need to sit down, shut up, put your seatbelts on, and enjoy the ride. And that's where the writer's block comes from. It's when the writer shows up and tries to be the boss and tries to make all the decisions, and thinks that he is driving this magical bus. But that's not the way intuitive writing works. You are in a partnership. You are co-creating stories with the universe. You're working with different energies, different messages, whatever it is that you're working with that wants to come through you. You're in a partnership, and you're not the boss. I guess if you guys are married, yeah, right? You guys know what partnerships are. You know what collaboration is. So it's not all about you. And I know we want it to be all about us, but it's not. And so this is where writer's block pops in. It's this, I guess, the ego of the writer thinking that everything's on their shoulders and they've got to work it all out. And when you're in that mindset, you're not aligning with your story and you're not in surrender to the energies that are trying to get your attention. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that writer's block is a misalignment with your story or a lack of surrender. That's really what it looks like. It's really the writer trying to show up and control everything, and it just doesn't work very well that way. So I have a little story. I always like to share stories with you guys. And the story that I'm going to tell you today is about a character named Jenna and Carter. And these are college kids in the zombie apocalypse, and they're two of the main characters in book 2 of my Undead Ultra series. And so they're holed up in a college dorm in the zombie apocalypse, and they are madly in love with each other. Now, when I first started this book, I had decided that one of the main points of view was going to be Carter. He is the son of the main heroine of the series, and I really got attached to him in book 1, and I wanted to explore his character further. But notice as I'm sharing, I'm talking all about me, talking about what I wanted to do. So when I sat down to write the story, Carter wasn't there. He wasn't there. But in the spirit of following age-old writing advice, which is still something I fight, I subscribed so many years to this advice of just keep writing. If you're stuck, just keep writing and you're going to get unstuck. This was I would say over 2.5 decades, I followed this advice. And, as I look back, I realize how ridiculous it was. Because honestly, if I'm stuck, it doesn't really make sense to just keep writing garbage, because that's usually what happened. I would write pages and pages and pages of stuff where I wasn't channeling, I wasn't connecting with my characters and my story, and that I have to end up trashing it all. And that's exactly what happened with this book. I was so focused on writing Carter's story. I wanted to drive my magic school bus all by myself. I wanted everybody else to sit down and buckle up and not say a word. And he wasn't there. The story, there was no soul in it. He had no voice, and it was just terrible. But I wrote thousands and thousands of words, dozens and dozens and dozens of pages, all of which I had to trash. And the whole time that I'm trying to force Carter's story, his girlfriend, Jenna, she's talking to me nonstop. Like, her story was just downloading nonstop. Like, I kept seeing her stories. It played like my head, or it played like a movie in my head, and I just ignored it because I was being the boss and this was my bus. And finally, I was just like, okay, like, I guess I need to try and tap into Jenna and bring her energy in. And as soon as I did, it was just like this whoosh, like the story just came. It just, like, it flew out of me. She had a story that she wanted to tell. She had an agenda. She brought this whole new layer of complexity to the story that I never could have come up with on my own. But I was in this state of resistance. I wasn't surrendering. I wasn't aligning to the energy that wanted to work with me. I was fighting it the whole time. And as soon as I surrendered to it, all the blocks fell away. All the obstacles fell away. I had a smooth road. The story just poured out of me, and she's an awesome, awesome character. She's a Southern California glam girl who converts to a granola hippie in Northern California. So if you're at all familiar with the polarized energies of the state of California, you can probably get a little bit of a chuckle out of that. So I just wanted to share this story with you because I'm sure you've all had moments where you've sat in front of your computer or your notebook and you just feel stuck and you're trying to force it. And this is writer's block, guys. This is you not aligning with your stories and your energies that are there to co-create with you. This is you trying to be the boss. So you really have to just pause a moment and kind of assess what's going on. So now we're going to segue into part 2 of this episode, and I have 2 really concrete tips on how you can overcome writer's block, this feeling of being stuck, of not being able to connect with your story. These 2 steps that I'm going to share with you to overcome writer's block, they might sound a little weird and a little woo-woo, but I guarantee you 100% they work. But you do have to practice. It might not work the first time or the second time, but you do have to practice. And the more you practice, the more tapped in you're going to be and the easier this process is going to become. So when you're feeling stuck, when you know that you're at a roadblock in your story and for whatever reason it's not speaking with you, the first thing to do is to pause. You don't have to keep writing. Pause and ask for help. Just ask for help. So you can ask in your head. You can maybe jot it down in a journal. I'm all about talking to the universe. I talk to the universe all the time, so I ask out loud. I'll call my characters and just be like, hello, come on guys, help me out, I'm not seeing it, help me out. So ask for help. That's step number 1. And step number 2 is you have to make the space to hear the answer. And I've talked a lot in this podcast about making space to communicate with your story, and in a nutshell, creating space means alone time. And for me, alone time means no people. It means no media, so that's no music, no podcasts, no TV, like nothing to distract me. And I'll meditate, I'll clean the house, I'll go running, whatever it is that I like to do by myself. And I ask for help, and then I make the space and I wait for the answer. And they do come. It's really cool. It really does come. All of a sudden it'll pop into your head and you'll just be like, oh, okay, I see it now. It's amazing. Okay. So I had this happen most recently in the book that I was just working on last week, Zombiness Invasion 3. I had this lovely character named Amanda. And Amanda is the stereotypical chess nerd. She's into biology. She loves chess. She's part of the little chess nerd gang that in my book is fighting the zombies and the Soviet invaders. But Amanda's also a very sturdily built teenage girl. And my book is set in the 80s, and I've actually spent quite a bit of time watching 80s MTV videos while I'm writing this book because it just like gets me in the mood. And they have the ideal female figure in the 80s looks nothing like my character. So she has a lot of hang-ups about her looks. And so her journey is all about realizing how strong and how athletic she is in this body that she's been ashamed of her whole life. And she really blossoms as this badass zombie killer. And I was working on her section and I got close to the end and I knew there was something wrong. I just, I was feeling the story and I'm like, I missed something. I don't know what I missed, but something's wrong. And before I had adopted this intuitive writing practice that I'm always talking about, I just would have forced it. I just would have kept going. I probably would have just ignored it and just plowed ahead to the next section, even if I had that nagging feeling that something was missing. But in this instance, I knew there was something off, and I'm sure all of you can relate to that. When you're working on a book and you're just like, I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. How do I figure this out? That's kind of where I was. So I went to my meditation spot and I connected with Amanda, and I was like, okay, I know there's something missing. I have no idea what it was. Can you show me what I missed? And she came right away. And it's interesting, what the piece that I had missed was there was this whole sub-story of her relationship with this abusive PE teacher. And I completely missed it. I never caught it in all of my channeling with Amanda, but when I asked her, she showed it to me, and I was like, okay, I got to get this PE teacher in. So I went back in and I wove this mini story, this little subtext about her relationship with this PE teacher that was really went out of her way to put the character down and make her feel bad about her body. And as soon as I did that and I finished the section, it's like I could feel Amanda's energy. It was like this huge sigh of relief, like, oh, like, okay, we got it, we did this. And the section was great. It turned out great, but it was that piece. And so this is what I'm talking about. You just ask your characters, or just ask your story for help. And I had this happen again recently with the same book. I got towards the end and I thought I knew what the end was supposed to be. And as I started to move into it and kind of write it as I saw it, something wasn't feeling right. I didn't know what it was. And as I was surveying the story, I realized, oh, I think this part that I'm writing is actually supposed to be the introduction to book 4. So it's actually not supposed to be a part of this book. So I was like, okay, so I paired it off. But then I was like, okay, but how do I end it? I didn't actually know how to end it. So again, I asked, hey guys, what's the ending? I don't see it. And I went and I cleaned the house. And as I was cleaning the house, I downloaded an entire scene. And it was so beautiful and so unexpected and so not on my radar at all. But it was just like, okay, all right, I get it. Okay. And that's how I got the ending. And that's how this process works. It's getting out of your own way. It's all about realizing that you're not driving this bus by yourself. There's a lot of other energies that are driving the bus with you, and it's all about surrendering to them and listening and being in this co-creation process and being in this collaboration and really, I guess, intuitively connecting with your story and feeling when something is off. And I did have an episode where I talk about shifting your connection to your story from your head into your heart. And there's a really helpful meditation. I don't remember which number it was, you guys. I think it was 15 or 16. But anyway, you'll have to go back through. I'm horrible about putting show notes together, so you'll just have to go back through and find the one that it was. But as you learn to feel your story and feel your characters, you'll be able to start feeling when things are off. And that's when you can use this practice of pausing, asking for help, and then making the space for the answer to come in. So it really is easy, but we have to make it easy, right? Because I don't know, I get stuck in my head too. And, you know, I was talking about how I subscribe to this, you know, just keep pushing rhetoric. Just keep writing, just make that word count. That was how I operated for years. And a big part of that was because I struggle, and I still do, with stillness. And I the way I felt about my day was determined by my productivity or my perceived productivity. So I think that's why that method works so well for me, because I had a tangible goal, a tangible satisfaction that I could lean into, that I'd hit a certain number. So I fight against that conditioning a lot. But I do my best to bring consciousness to it and remind myself that it's not about the quantity, it's really about the flow, and it's really about, being in the surrender and knowing that I'm making that connection, and that what's actually coming through me onto the page is good stuff and not just garbage because I'm trying to force it. So it is a mindset, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, but I am living proof that you can make the switch. Especially after you've done it for years and years and years and years. I did it, so can you. So that wraps up this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful. So just to recap, from an energetic standpoint, writer's block is a lack of surrender and a misalignment with your story. And energetically, the way you overcome writer's block is to pause, ask the energies that you're co-creating with for help, and then make the space for the answer. And if you've found this episode helpful, I would really appreciate it if you'd share it on social media, share it with your writing friends, and of course, if you have any questions or you just want to say hi, I'm on Instagram every day at Write with Intuition. I love hearing from you guys. I love connecting with other writers because, I don't know, writing is like its own kind of weird and its own kind of kookiness. So I always like to talk to other writers. I guess it's kind of like runners too. Like runners are their own kind of freaky weird. So it's nice to talk to people that are into whatever your weird is. And just to give you an update on the course, I've gotten feedback from just about all of my beta testers. So I think my big project for the next couple of weeks will be going back through and refining everything and really polishing it up before I release it. So be sure to subscribe to my newsletter. If you want to get a coupon when the course is released, the link is in the show notes. Please subscribe on your favorite platform, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. It would really help me out. And I hope everybody has a lovely day, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.